What the hell? We want the racks, okay? Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Sable. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, and welcome back to another video. What I want to talk to you guys about in this video is actually tips for kind of surviving a job in corporate America. I know a lot of people are influencers in this day and age, or like aspiring influencers and stuff like that, but quite a few people do still have a corporate job. I still have a corporate job. So I thought this would be a helpful little video of things that I've learned over the years. I haven't been in corporate America for a decade, but I've been working, when did I get my master's degree? Working professionally for, I think, like the last decade. Yeah, it's been like 10 years. So I have about 10 years of professional experience for which I've kind of developed these little tips. My academic / professional background or whatever, because I think a lot of you guys probably don't know. So I did my bachelor's degree in material science and engineering at Georgia Tech in Atlanta. And then after that, that degree was 4 years. And then after that, I did my master's in chemical engineering at University of Toronto, which is obviously in Canada. And then after I graduated from there, I was working for a mining company. I used to work in a diamond mine. I worked there for 5 years. I was at first like a graduate process engineer, then I was a metallurgist. For the last like 3 years I was there. So I worked in the process plant on the mine site, and after that I got an engineering consulting role as a process engineer. So I moved to Houston for that position, and I was in the hydrometallurgy group of the company that I worked for. So that was kind of like the area of projects that I worked in. And then I moved to Dallas for the job that I have now, where I'm a senior process engineer at the company that I work for, basically. So that's kind of like a little bit of my background, so you guys can have an idea of, like, you know what I mean, where I would have developed these tips from, and so you guys know a little bit more about me too. So basically I've been a professional engineer for the last like decade, which is crazy to say. We're getting old, girl. Anyway, let's dive straight into the tips. I have 10 tips that I want to give you guys. So let's get it going. The first tip that I have is, it's particularly for women, but really it's for anybody. Do not let people, I was gonna say men, since, you know, as a woman, that's kind of my reality or whatever. Don't let men steamroll you in the workplace, okay? Advocate for yourself, speak up for yourself in the workplace, because especially as a woman, it tends to happen, especially when you work in a field like I do, where it's very male dominated. Even if you have more knowledge on a subject, more experience, anything, men tend to, you know, overlook you, disregard your opinion, speak over you, and not expect you to kind of fight for yourself and advocate for yourself when they're doing bullshit in the workplace. So as a woman, always speak up for yourself, always advocate for yourself. Do not let men steamroll you, especially when you know you are in the right and you know you did the right thing, because they don't expect a fight back a lot of times, especially when they're like, oh, she's so young and she's so cute and she's just, They don't expect your personality to be, you know, willing to take on confrontation, willing to, you know what I mean, fight to get your point across. Expect you to kind of just accept what they're saying, which doesn't set the right precedent for who you are as a professional in the workplace, and it only kind of allows that behavior to continue and let them think they can play with you when they can't, okay? They be loving to do that. I'll be like talking in a meeting and they're talking right over me. And I'm just like, I was speaking. Like, I was kind of trying to say something. Like, if you hired me and want me to do a job, allow me to do the job. Like, if you don't care about my opinion, you really could have just not hired me. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, yeah, this doesn't go for every man in the workplace. But it is a common trend, even when they don't realize that they're doing it. It does happen very often. So as a woman, you really have to, you know, stand firm, obviously be professional, but advocate for yourself, and don't let them think you're gonna just cower over to whatever they want because they feel like they're so big and bad, okay? Second one that I have, send a follow-up email for every single thing, okay? Even if it seems like it's over communicative, even if it may seem like annoying, even if it may seem like, you want to have stuff written down that you can draw on, especially if it's like, for example, from a conversations where decisions were made and like actions need to be taken from that. Always send a follow-up email, because honestly, if you don't have anything written down, you have nothing. You have no proof of anything. You have nothing to circle back on, nothing. So always send a follow-up email. Be like, oh, per our conversation, you know, this was what was discussed. These are the actions that are coming out of here. Write everything down. And it also gives the other person an opportunity to be like, oh, maybe I misunderstood something, or like there was a miscommunication. It's helpful to catch things like that as well. So always send an email. Write it down, okay? Because a lot of times you can have a conversation with, this has happened to me. I'll have a conversation with somebody, right? And I'll be like, oh yeah, well, you know, XYZ said, you know, this was the situation. He's like, oh, well, no, that's not really what I said. When I literally repeated back verbatim what he said, okay? So every single time, send a follow-up email, because you can also attach that email for proof of things if any situation arises. And if you do not have something documented, it didn't happen, okay? So document everything, even if it seems annoying, even if it seems over communicative, even if no one responds to the email, it doesn't matter. You want to just have that proof to draw back on just in case. It's just like a quick phone call, whether it's after a meeting, like, oh, I'm just summarizing the meeting. These were the conclusions. You don't have to write verbatim everything everybody said, but like, these were the conclusions drawn for the meeting. These were the next steps. So there can be no confusion of like who's taking ownership of something, what is expected next, you know, the next actions, and then after that, no one can say they weren't aligned on what was discussed, because an email was sent. So why didn't you read and respond to the email if there was an issue with what was discussed? This has happened to me many times. Always send an email. If you did not write it down, it did not happen. I also even do this not just for conversations, but for tracking things for myself, okay? I want to have documentation of things that you've been doing, because your boss is never going to know every activity that you're working on. You know what I mean? Especially like for my case, my boss right now works remote in another state, right? So he doesn't really know what I'm doing every day. So have documentation of things, especially when they directly relate to your performance and like bonuses and stuff like that. Because now, if you've been documenting all the activities you've been doing, all the things you've successfully completed, everything that you had a hand in that, you know, added value to the company and stuff like that. If you have all of that documented, because you're not going to remember everything also. So if you have all of that documented throughout the year, that's something very easy to pull on at performance review time, to be like, okay, well, you know, these are all the things that have been successfully completed. This is XYZ, rate, okay? And then you're like, run with the bonus, because this is all the shit I've been doing that has benefited you, okay, and this company. So I find that's another great way to not just track, you know what I mean, other people are doing, but track what you're doing for yourself, and to feed into performance reviews, bonuses, stuff like that. Have all your activities that you're working on written down, and like your progress on them and how it added value and stuff like that to the company or to the team or whatever it is. So they have like, whether it's an Excel sheet, however you want to do it, whatever format you think is best, and track your goals and metrics, and have it all written down, all the activities you've been consistently working on throughout the year. Third tip is probably a bit unorthodox one. You need to switch jobs and companies frequently to really maximize your earning potential in the corporate space. And I don't care what anybody says, I stand by this. As you can see from what I said, I have gotten new positions in, within a company before, but it's not until really switching companies that I find that you really see a major increase in your earning potential. I feel like a company is willing to recognize and pay you for the value that you bring the most when they're trying to hire you. I think most people will agree with this too. They're a lot more flexible for increasing your salary, whether it's like adding, certain percentages of bonuses, whatever, into your contract when they're trying to hire you. But try get a bonus from year to year, or try get a promotion within the company and see how much they're willing to give you. They're always willing to pay you more when they're trying to hire you versus when you're already in the company and trying to get a promotion and trying to get an increase. They always undervalue people who already work there because they always feel like you're not gonna leave or start over, or like, oh, it's so hard to find a job right now, the job market isn't good. They don't really expect people to just up and, walk away from the company. They'd be rewarding you with stupid shit like, oh, pizza party. What the hell? We want the racks, okay? Anyway, so yeah, I think switching companies is one of the best ways to maximize your earning potential in the corporate job space. And I know some people are like, oh, well, you have to stay at this company for this long, that long. Those rules merely mean nothing, right? I do know people who have literally switched jobs every 2 years or every year and a half to 2 years to really increase their earning potential. And they have gotten asked the question of like, oh, well, you've switched jobs so frequently, like, why we expect you to be here, for the long haul, because they really do want people to be at the company or at a role for a longer period of time, if possible, if they're not having high turnover or whatever, right? So I think if that is something that you're doing, you may want to have a good answer for that question. And personally, I think the answer my friend had said to that was like, oh, the other companies didn't really align with his values or whatever and stuff like that. Something about like the company cultures, he had said why he was like switching jobs, but it was really for money. Because I know some employers can look at that as like a negative thing. Oh, why are they always switching jobs? Why are they always switching jobs? But honestly, I don't think it really is that much of a deterrent. If people really want to hire you and if you are very qualified for a role, I think that's really the only way, one of the only ways you really get to maximize how much money you're making in corporate America. Because from what I've seen, companies just undervalue their employees so much. Obviously, this isn't every company, but I've worked at a few companies. I know a lot of people who work in the corporate America world. So I'm just saying, even if you have a job, do not be afraid to be taking calls with recruiters. Do not be afraid to, have open to work on your LinkedIn. Just always be open to new opportunities. Even if you're not aggressively looking for a new job while you're employed, like if you're happy where you're at, still take the calls from people maybe trying to recruit you on LinkedIn. Still browse jobs from time to time, take interviews. You never know where those things can lead you. Because you may end up having a new job that all of a sudden is paying you a lot more than you even imagined was possible for the type of role that you have. So never restrict yourself and limit yourself and feel like, oh, well, I can't switch jobs yet. I've only been here for a year. No, always be open to new opportunities. Always be willing to pivot. Always be flexible on what your next step is. Number 4, work is work, girl. Can everybody stop trying to act like, okay, I'm gonna say this with a grain of salt, I guess, kind of. Work is work, okay? Like, I understand it's nice to have your little workplace friends and you guys can key, but why are you going and telling all your business at work? Why are you going and telling people all your business at work? Do not do it. They don't need to be knowing every detail of your personal life, every single thing you did last weekend. Also, why are your coworkers have access to your TikTok, your Instagram, your this, your that? I firmly do not think that is something that can ever be beneficial if you work in corporate America. I don't, because honestly, a lot of the people you'll be talking to, telling out your business to, you think they would be unwilling to be telling other people your business? For example, you go call out to work. Oh, well, I saw on Instagram that she was out at brunch until 5 a.m. Like, girl, it can never benefit you to have all your business in the workplace. Okay, it's one thing to be like, oh yeah, you know, like tell minor details here and there about your life, but they don't need to know your real life. Okay, like the people at work is work. I'm sorry, you can have, I know some people do make good friends in the corporate America space, but baby girl, they do not need to know your business and what you're up to when you are not inside that office. Okay, like it's okay to keep some things to yourself. You don't have to be telling all these people all your business and acting like they're your best friends when they're not, because if it ever comes down to it, they're gonna always throw you under the bus to protect their job. Okay, and you never know who's really bad minding you or who wants to get you fired. So just keep your business to yourself, treat work like it is work, and then dip. Okay, like that's it. Just, I firmly believe in not acting like everybody at work is your friend. And that brings it, this isn't a full point on its own, but the thing about like work happy hours and work events that are like, you know, after work hours, baby, this is not a party. Like the happy hour, una drink 10 shots of tequila, getting fried, acting up in the people in place. I'm like, girl, like I understand some companies, you know, obviously some companies more chill than others, whatever, have a 1-2 glass of wine, but girl, why are you getting fried in the middle of people in place like at a work event? I'm sorry, I take anything that has to do with work, to me is still work, even if it's a happy hour, even if it's after work hours, even if it's a work event, happy hour, whatever it is, those to me are still considered work, because I never want to put myself in a position where anybody at work knows the real me. The personality you guys get on YouTube does not exist in the corporate space, especially as a woman, because especially when a lot of the people above you are men, and like I said, you work in a male dominated field, and especially the kind of field that I work in. This is probably more for traditional corporate jobs, like the kind of like the engineering field like I work in. Okay, you may not think like they pay attention to those things and they're, oh, everybody's laughing, he, but they do. Okay, so like I said, just treat work as work, get fried with your friends on the weekend, do the shots then, but you don't need to be doing that with people at work, and you don't need to be telling them all your business. Okay, you do not need to tell them your business, even if you think the person at work is your friend. Okay, number 5, this one is gonna seem kind of straightforward. Do what is asked of you. Okay, do what is asked of you. And I'm saying this because I've seen this happen many times, not specifically to me, but I've seen it happen many times. Do exactly what is asked of you, because a lot of times these corporate companies care more about you doing things according to their protocol than you, for example, making a new efficient way to do something, you know, coming up with a creative way to do something. I have seen many times that people, you know, introducing, you know, a more creative way, a more efficient way or something, and broke protocol that corporate company stands for. And I've seen people get fired over it, even though their results were positive and they made a more efficient way to do something. I've seen people get fired for it. I've seen people have a lot of negative feedback about it. I'll give you an example that actually just happened the other day. So one of the guys who works in the plant at my job, right? He was, you know, operating the plant, whatever. There's a protocol in place where if we're gonna change, you know, something in how we're operating this run of the plant, then you need to get a sign off from like 3 or 4 different people, right? None of those people were in the office that day. And based on, you know, what was going on in the plant, some things were going wrong, whatever, he made a few decisions that altered the course of the campaign that they were running. Girl, the next morning, and frankly, his decision wasn't wrong. No one said it was wrong, actually, at all. And they were able to complete the campaign run that they were doing on time because of the decisions he made. But the next day, all he received was negative feedback. Like, oh, well, did that person sign off on this? Or you're just making these decisions when no one was available also. I spoke to him after, right? The guy from the plant who was operating the plant, who got the negative feedback. I spoke to him after. I said, look, what you should do is do exactly what they asked of you. Do exactly what they asked of you. So something was going wrong, everything stops. Stop running. We have to get sign off from these 4 people. If you're unable to get the sign off, then nothing happens, because that was what was requested of you, right? So you put it in an email. Back to the email thing, you put it in an email. Hey, well, requesting sign off on doing this change because this is what's occurring in the plant right now, and wait for the responses. If you do not get the responses, then nothing happens. And then when they see things are being delayed, all of a sudden you making your own decisions is fine. And running how you want to run is fine. Because so many times they care way more about their outdated protocol, right? And doing things their way for whatever reason than actually having things done far more efficiently and better. And as stupid as that is, the amount of times I've seen that people get bitten in the ass for it. This happened to me early on in my career, and I just stopped doing it from then. I was like, all right, this ain't worth the stress. If y'all don't want to be better, then just say that. Just say that, and I'll keep my ideas to myself. Okay? And like I said, not every company is like that. Obviously, depends on your situation. But a lot of these rules, a lot of these tips that I'm giving are really for, the type of real corporate America jobs that I'm referring to. Okay? So just do exactly what is asked of you. Point blank, period. Okay? Tip number 6. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Ask questions as they come to you, okay? Whether you're in a meeting, whatever, even if you think the question may seem dumb, ask as much questions as you can, and don't be afraid to ask a question. Ask a question almost as soon as you think of it, because, for example, if you're in a meeting and you're like, wait, what were they talking about? Like, what do they mean by this? Right? You don't ask a question, you can't figure it out on your own, you sit down on it for 3 weeks, and then your boss is referring to this again, and you've had multiple meetings where this topic has been discussed, and you've sat down in all these meetings and never asked nobody what they were talking about. You're always gonna look stupid waiting to ask a question. You might as well no one's ever really gonna wrong you for asking a question, even if it's just something you forgot or like something simple. It's always better to ask a question than not. You need to be up to date on, what has been happening with the team. Obviously try to figure out things by yourself and make sure you're up to date on what's been happening and that you have been present and paying attention and whatever in these meetings. But never be afraid to ask a question. Because also sometimes certain people may not, especially when you're starting a new role, like certain people may not realize like, oh, you weren't involved in that conversation. Oh, we need to include you and loop you in on that. Like, oh, I'll send you some more background information, whatever. It's rare. It's very, very rare that anyone will ever really wrong you for asking a question. The worst they may say is like, oh, let's just have this discussion offline, or maybe like take it offline if you feel like it's something you may need, more time to discuss and you don't want to take up people's time, like if it's in a group meeting or something like that. But never be afraid to ask a question and get clarification about anything that you may be like wondering about, because honestly, as much as you think a lot of people in the corporate space have everything figured out and know everything, a lot of time people be pretending, girl. Like, we don't really know what's going on. We just be in there doing things, okay? So never be afraid to ask a question, because it's always going to look worse on you if you wait weeks and weeks and weeks to ask it versus, just asking it the first time you kind of think of it. And no one will ever really wrong you for asking questions. So ask as much as you can to get as much information as you can, because that'll make your life easier, If you have like, a problem like you can't figure out, or you're having an issue with something that you're working on, don't ask a question where it's like, I don't know what to do, help me. Like, you know what I mean? If you have an issue or a problem that you're trying to solve and you need support on it, ensure you've kind of tried to figure it out a bit on your own. So you can be like, hey, I've been like struggling with this issue, you know, I've tried XYZ, haven't really seen any favorable results or haven't been able to figure it out. Like, do you have any other suggestions, or is there another avenue you think I can go on, or is there like somebody you think I could reach out to for support on, you know what I mean, figuring this out? That's always sounds better than me like, hey, yeah, so like I just don't know what to do. Help me, you know what I mean? Or I don't know what this is, like, what is this? Or something like that, you know, like that doesn't sound like you've been proactive. Tip number 7, okay. Am I an engineer? Tip number 7, bitch, tip number 7. But as it is, a lot of times being likable in the corporate space is a lot more important than doing your job, like how good you are at your job, okay? Because people will prefer, I've seen people who are likable, they tend to get promotions easier. People, you know what I mean, just prefer to, people just give them almost like favoritism because they like them more, even though they may not be doing a damn thing right, okay? And it's really dumb, because you would think the person who's actually good at their job should get the accolades, should get the promotions, should get the whatever. But no, it's normally the people who are most likable. I'm never really the most likable, because I just do my job and leave. Because personally, I'm not a corporate America girly. Like, I don't subscribe to a lot of things with corporate America, and I think that's because my first job was so unorthodox. Because the managing job wasn't really like a corporate America job. Like, it was a rotation job where I'd fly to the mine site, live on the mine site for 2-3 weeks, and then I'd have 2-3 weeks off. So my very first job out of school was unorthodox. I didn't really get corporate America experience until I moved and did the Houston job. So a lot of things with corporate America I don't really subscribe to. That is one of them. I do my job well. I stand on that. And because of that, even if people don't like me, people keep me around. But you can obviously see there is favoritism if people are more likable. But personally, I don't really care about that. I'd be doing the hop, skipping, and jumping to increase my salary. Don't follow back on me, okay? But it is what it is. I'm just being honest with you guys. So yeah, I don't play into the likability one per se. Not that I'm mean or rude or anything to anybody in the workplace. But I just don't make that personally my priority. I prioritize doing my job well, adding value, and that's why people always keep me around, even though I may not feed into that like office culture or corporate America culture. Because you guys know I be hating to go to the office. If you watch my vlogs, you know I hate going to the office, okay? Yeah, it's not something I necessarily play into being the office favorite, but I have noticed it being a significant part of corporate culture, where the more likable people, even though they're not really good at their job, tend to get favored for, promotions, bonuses, whatever, over people who are actually good at their jobs. Not like those are huge though, because sometimes I don't be wanting those promotions they be giving those people. Anyways, tip number 8, be confident in yourself. And I mean that in the way of, you don't have to be, especially when you're starting a new role, don't be so shy and reserved. Don't be afraid to like reach out to people if you need help. Like I was saying, don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to stand up for yourself. It kind of plays into some of the points I've mentioned before, but don't be afraid to like reach out to new people too. For example, when I got hired for my job in Houston, I was the only person in the hydrometallurgy group in that office. So I had nobody on any team anywhere to seek support from, and I was new. So I was calling people on teams I had never spoken to, messaging people I had never spoken to, asking people questions I had never spoken to, email. You just have to reach out. Don't be afraid to reach out to people, especially if you're in need of support, or even if it's just to like pick their brain about something. Like, even if people are super busy, like they may not respond to your email right away, or they may be like, oh, well, we can't do it now, can we reschedule? No one's ever gonna be like, no, I'm gonna have time for this, okay? So don't be afraid to be confident enough in yourself to like reach out to someone new, okay? And just message them, give them a call, whatever. Like, it's not as, like, don't get in your head about it, you know what I mean? And don't feel like necessarily you're annoying them. If they don't have the time, they'll say they don't have the time. You can just like drop some time on their calendar later in the week. If it needs to reschedule, it needs to reschedule, and that's it. You know, I just thought of an extra one when I was just saying that, on the being confident. And this one is really, I think a lot of people, including myself, has suffered from this. If a problem is not expressed to you, the problem doesn't exist. So if your boss thinks you're doing a horrible job, and like if you have in your mind your boss thinks you're doing a horrible job, if your boss hasn't said that to you, it doesn't exist. But you have to like self-check yourself on that one. Like, are you like really not doing anything, girl? Like, you know what I mean? But we tend to overthink, like, oh my God, I'm gonna get fired. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, girl, be confident in yourself. You got hired for a reason. Even if you don't know what you're doing, you can figure it out. Do not assume everyone knows what they're doing, because they don't. Everyone is trying to figure everything out in that office as well. I promise you. Even if they seem like they have it all together, everyone's just trying to figure things out. So if the problem hasn't actually been expressed to you, it doesn't exist. Get it out of your head. Don't let it eat you alive that you're like going to lose your job tomorrow. And girl, even if you lose your job tomorrow, other jobs today. Other jobs today, okay? You can find a new job just like you found that one, okay? So do not let problems that have been expressed to you in the workplace eat you up. Because I promise you, if they wanted to fire you or lay you off, they just set up the meeting and do it. They're not gonna sit down thinking they want to fire you and lay you off and, like, you know what I mean, not do it. Tip number 9. When you're starting a new role, establish a communication style with your boss. Whether it's you're starting a new role or you have a new manager or a new supervisor, whatever it is, establish a communication style with your boss during that beginning period of getting to know each other, because that will help you understand your boss's expectations of you, like how they want to be updated on what you're working on, like the status of your tasks, how they prefer for you to track things, whether you guys can have like a setup, a weekly, bi-weekly call to, you know what I mean, always have a touch point on what's going on with where you stand with things to keep them updated. You can have like a standing weekly catch-up, bi-weekly catch-up, whatever it is. I think it's important to establish that from the beginning, because a lot of times some people, even though they may be good at their job, they're not necessarily good managers of people. So I've had managers who I've had to like help them manage me, which is insane. But a lot of people, maybe like, for example, I've had people who are great engineers, but horrible managers, okay? And I've had to support people who've been in the workplace way longer than I have on how to be a good manager. It's actually crazy to think about, but because they are technically the manager, you want to set your own self up for success. So asking those kinds of questions in the beginning, you can understand the kind of relationship you can have with your manager and help keep them up to date on what you are working on. Having those touch points also, I find, helps keep you up to date on like what they're doing as well, because like sometimes some people don't talk to their manager every day, you know what I mean, and some people necessarily don't feel comfortable just like, hey, like I will do that. Like I just be calling people and be like, hey, or I'll send them a message first and call them, you know what I mean. But I think that's a good thing to establish when you are just starting a new role, or you know, you have a new manager, a new setup, whatever. Understand that communication style and set yourself up for success throughout your role, and you can maximize that relationship with your manager and stay up to date on like what's going on in their world. You can even learn more things about the company and like how things are going and stuff like that outside of like your immediate tasks every day. And I find that is very helpful when you get other information about other things, about how the company is doing, about, you know, what your manager is working on, about other tasks that are going on. It helps give you a better picture, a larger picture of not just your team, but the company, you know, where things are headed, stuff like that. So I think it's good to like set up, whether it's a standing weekly call, bi-weekly call, you know, ask your manager how they'd like to be updated on things. And if they already have a structure in place, then you can be aware of that structure as well. Or if the company has their own structure in place, then you can be aware of that as well. And you know what I mean? Adapt that to your role. Tip number 10, jobs are just a job, okay? These are just a job. Do not let corporate America suck the life out of you. Even if you feel like, you know, entrepreneurship isn't for you or trying to be an influencer or whatever, do not ever let these jobs suck the life out of you, take over your life. They're not more important than your life outside of work. They're not more important than your family. They're not more important than your happiness. Like, if you're literally cringing, crying, screaming, throwing up every day to go to your job, babe, look for another job. You don't owe that company anything, because I promise you, they don't feel they owe you anything. Even though they hired you, whatever, no matter how much positive they want to say about, oh, we're such a family, we're a family. Babe, if you drop dead today, because I've seen this happen as well. If you drop dead today, they'll send one email of condolences and then have your job posted tomorrow, and everybody keeps it pushing. Okay? So do not ever let this compromise your health, compromise your relationships, compromise your happiness, compromise your mental health. Okay? Any of that, because it is never worth it. And I've seen people, okay, kill themselves on a project expecting to get rewarded, you know, with their with bonuses, with shares, with this and that. You know what they got? Good work. After the girl was in the office every single day, 12 hours. Okay, this is a real thing that happened. A girl I knew at the last company I worked for, she killed herself on this project, and she never did it again. She did it once. She killed herself on this project, expecting to get rewarded with, the company I used to work for was a privately owned company. So she was expecting to get rewarded with additional company shares, right? She got oh, great, thanks. After she was the first person in the office every day and the last person to leave every day for months. Okay? So do not ever think they care enough about you where it's worth compromising your life like that. Always be honest and be like, well, you know, if someone's asking, okay, how long do you need to complete this task? Oh, well, like, oh, we need it done by tomorrow. Well, I can't get it done by tomorrow. You're telling me this Wednesday afternoon. You can't be expecting me to have it done by Thursday. Obviously, there are some compromises, but always put yourself first, okay? Because they're gonna do the same thing, I promise you. So enjoy your life. Do not let them people drive you mad, girl. Prioritize yourself, prioritize your mental health, prioritize your happiness. These corporate jobs are never worth it. Go into work, do a good job. Take all the other tips that I have said before this one. Go in there, do the job they hired you for, do a good job, add your value, clock out and go home. Okay? And go enjoy the rest of your life. And don't compromise your health, your fitness, your mental health, your relationships, your happiness. Because other jobs are out there. Okay? That's it. I want to end with that one because when I kill up myself for no job, and I'd hate to see people do it because they always regret it. I have never seen anyone say, oh, thank God I killed up myself for this project or for this thing. I got rewarded so much for it. Babe, never. It has never happened, okay? Anyways, that's it, guys. Those are my 10 little corporate America tips. Some are unorthodox or whatever, like, but my tips are not to feed into be a slave to corporate America. I'm sorry, it's just not, because like I said on my last tip, it ain't never worth it. It ain't never worth the stress, and whatever shit you're putting yourself through. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe. And yeah, I hope these tips were helpful. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.